I think we sometimes don't realize the beauty of ourselves when we only focus on this polished, perfect facade that we are ready to show to the world. And it is often something which hides behind that perfect facade that carries the true beauty.
You are now listening to the podcast where authors inspire listeners to become authors, the Going North Podcast. I'm your host, certified self-leadership trainer, best-selling author, and book enthusiast, Dom Brightman. And you're going to be listening to a different author that will inspire you to join the business of immortality, known as authorship. Now let the fun begin. Before the episode starts, we got another review to highlight, and this is a 5-star review from Cat Knee. Instead of catnip, it's Cat Knee. N-double-I, you'll love to see it. And he left a 5-star review on Apple Podcast titled, "Make This a Regular Listen." I'm so glad I found Dom. He has a whole host of wonderful interviews. I listened to some in preparation for my own interview with him and enjoyed them so much that I now listen to them just because they are so interesting, informative, and inspirational. As an interviewer, Dom was fun from the first second. He is very lighthearted and sincere. I love his sense of humor and his genuine interest in his guests. Definitely a podcast to be listening to on a regular basis. Thanks a bunch for that great review and letting folks know what you like about the show. And if you too like something about this podcast, do so by heading over to goingnorthpodcast.com or Apple Podcasts and leaving a review and let us know what you like about the show so we can keep doing it. Now let's get on with today's content. And today on the Highlight Reel Builder for Authors, known as GMP, the Great, Glorious, and Glamorous, is the Going North Podcast. And we got another super special, awesome human for you today that could probably fit all three of those G's and more because we got a treat that's good enough to eat 5 times over. That's right. 4 and a whole thumb indeed, because today's guest is not only an international best-selling author, and I'll speak it into existence since this is pre-recorded, New York Times best-selling author, as well as a teacher, talented international speaker, entrepreneur, artist, philanthropist, and mom of 2 kids. And here's the cherry on top. She's also the co-founder of Mindvalley. So that's right indeed, baby. So let's give it up for the KML herself, the kind, magnificent, and loving Kristina Mand-Lakhiani. How you doing today, Kristina?
Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you for such a warm introduction and such kind words. I'm doing fine.
Fine and fabulous indeed. That's right indeed. It feels good. It's like, all right, another heavyweight in the freaking podcast sanctum. You love to see it. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Hope as with all introduction, not allowed to be 500 days long. So my goodness, got a special version of the question for you since you've been on so many podcasts. So if you were to describe your life journey up till now in 3 words, what would they be and why?
Exciting, unpredictable, juicy. Why? I have no idea. I just they just came. I trusted whatever comes.
Oh, there you go. I'm guessing juicier than an orange, maybe.
Well, yeah, maybe a little lemon occasionally and a little grapefruit, but in generally good.
I guess the lemon comes from the days in politics.
Yeah, and the grapefruit from all the disappointments that have to happen.
Okay.
It's been a very cool start. Thank you, because I think I sometimes stay too much in my head. So when you insist on me saying something very quickly and very to the point, I suddenly start speaking with my heart. So thank you for that.
Oh, my pleasure indeed. It ain't your ordinary podcast interview. I mean, you don't have your average bear behind the microphone all the time. That's right, indeed. So, my goodness, and I'm guessing exciting popped up because you got this super special, awesome book that's going to be out, I believe, a week from after this goes live, becoming Flawesome Notes on what it takes to live authentically. So, my goodness, what inspired you to finally join the business of immortality in book form?
Well, yeah, I've been in personal growth for 20 years, so I've done it mostly behind the scenes because I was in this industry as an entrepreneur and a producer of other authors. And yes, I transitioned into speaking myself once my message had matured. I just felt that I was ready to share it with the world. And in our industry, of course, it's an interesting path. And in my case, I actually also joined the ranks of the world's most famous and most remarkable, which was quite a journey on itself, finding my own worth among such names as we publish in Mindvalley. But what inspired me to write the book is definitely my own story. My own story inspired me, and I think that every single author is inspired by their own experiences in life. I mean, inspiration does come from within. But with that said, my book is not about me, not at all. I am sharing the story of how you can find your way back to you, but I believe that it is a journey for every single reader who picks up the book, because as many readers as this book will have, as many journeys there will be, and as many unique destinations.
There we go. That's right, indeed. From Estonia to England to New England, you'll love to see it. That's right, indeed, with all the ease, indeed. And my goodness, and what inspired the title? Was it like not just being awesome, but enjoying awesomeness while having flaws on top of the awesome? Is that the inspiration behind the title?
Like any book, I think the title comes at the very end. You usually write the whole thing, and then the title comes. So of course, before I started, I did have a whole sheet, a whole long list of possible titles to it. And I was thinking about them. But as I was writing the book, it became clear that it is becoming Flawesome and nothing else. The title found itself. The word Flawesome itself is not my invention. I found it somewhere. I read it somewhere. I gelled with it. I liked it. I adopted it because it didn't belong to anyone. Like the words don't belong to anyone. So I loved it. And yes, it is about accepting the idea that we are imperfect. We are not really flawless. We are not really perfect. And that's the beauty of it. I think I'm loosely quoting Exupéry from Little Prince. He says that what makes the desert beautiful is that somewhere there is a well. And I think we sometimes don't realize the beauty of ourselves when we only focus on this polished, perfect facade that we are ready to show to the world. And it is often something which hides behind that perfect facade that carries the true beauty.
So eloquently said, indeed, and so not true, indeed. Hey, make us better and not butter. That's right, indeed. The flaws. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. So, my goodness, as with flaws, I'm pretty sure there have been setbacks along the way where it's like, oh, darn, it's misdirection. I thought it was a fork in the road, but it was actually a spoon. So, my goodness, so is there what would you consider your biggest setback that actually became your biggest success?
Okay, that question is not a simple one, because you want a setback which became a success, and not every setback becomes a success, I believe. And that's a very interesting idea, that we love to believe that every setback, every failing, every falling down on the floor ends up definitely and absolutely with some kind of success. But that's not how gravity works. Gravity works in one direction. So whether it's going to be success or just a learning or just a moment of introspection is it depends on so many things. But back to your question. I think I have plenty of regrets. I mean, you don't have regrets if you don't do things. If you don't have courage, then you don't have regrets. If you do things, things happen. And I guess one of the most painful experiences was being in business for 3 years. Actually, I was in business with a partner for 6 years, and 3 of those years were torture. But I didn't have courage to separate, and that was one of probably the biggest failings, which did eventually take me to a huge learning and transformation. I've had my share of broken hearts for sure. I mean, I have one heart; it has broken several times. I guess the worst things are when you don't do something and then you wonder for the rest of your life, what would it be if you had done something when you were not courageous enough? So that's a sampler. I don't know. You get to pick. We can go deeper into something.
Hey, it goes to the territory because it's so true. It's like, hey, you do things and things happen. It's so true. And hey, with 6 years of being in business and three of them being hell, it's like, oh man. So it's like one side is heads, one side is tails. Like, when am I gonna get the tails to make a run for it? Have the courage. So what helped you to finally get that courage and muster it up to really be honest?
So I guess it's the biggest failing because I was forced into change. Like I like to compare it to jumping out with a parachute. And when you do it for the first time, you usually don't make that step outside the plane on your own. Somebody kicks you in the back.
Yeah.
So that was my experience. Of course, once I made that step into the abyss, I suddenly thought, why didn't I do that earlier? Because it was literally very similar to jumping out of the plane. Because when you're standing in that door, you're paralyzed with fear because you can't imagine life beyond that one step into nothingness. But then when you do that step, you suddenly realize that you are flying. So in my case, when I first time jumped with a parachute, I even refused to open it because I was like, I'm not done. What are you guys doing? So my instructor had to pull it for me. So it was a very similar experience in my business, in fact. Because for 3 years, I was paralyzed with fear. I was so afraid to stay in business by myself. And no matter how painful it was to be in that relationship, I told myself a beautiful story that I have responsibilities, I have partners, I have employees. I cannot break up this relationship because, why would I put everyone in danger? But that was a beautiful story I told myself to not face the truth that I was just simply scared. Just simply scared. And of course, when it became so intolerable and I got that kick in the back and I had to fall out of the plane, I suddenly felt like I was literally flying. And that fear transformed into the feeling of flying, the feeling of weightlessness, the feeling of having wings behind your back in just one step into the unknown, into the abyss.
So true indeed. So true indeed. Heck, even my father jumped out of planes for a living at one point since he was in the airborne, and he would always pray every time. It's like, oh man. So when he would tell me stories, I could attest to that. Like, oh man, that first jump, it's like, oh man, it wasn't a jump. It was more of a kick in the back. Like, get out of this plane, or you getting court-martialed.
True. We don't like doing things which are scary. That's why, that's the primary function of fear, to keep us safe.
That's what I'm talking about, indeed. Heck, even two words you said earlier popped back into my head where you mentioned that your message matured over time. So, how was it like with the maturation process where you basically got better with every time? Like, how was that growth process and what have you learned so far? Because I'm pretty sure there's folks out there with the message where they feel like they're ready to get out there, but may not just be their time yet. They may need to wait for their message to mature.
I say that my message matured because I suddenly couldn't hold it in anymore, and that's what I mean by mature. So I guess a little intimate analogy would be when a woman is pregnant with a child. When the time comes, the woman can't hold the child in. The child has to be born. So that's what I mean by matured. It's the point where you don't have to force yourself. You have to hold yourself back if you don't want it out, and that's impossible. So that's what I mean by my message had matured, because being in personal growth for 20 years, of course, I've had friends and mentors and other business people tell me, you have to write a book, you are in that business. Of course, you have something to say, just share something. And there are a lot of courses and teachers who will help you to go through this process, because you can write a book as a process. It's doable. Our industry has a lot of books. There are millions of books published every year. So if you want to write a book, there are ways to do that, even if you feel uncertain, if you're not really sure what your message is. there are methodologies which help you to go through that process and actually clarify it in the process. And I think very few authors know what they want to write by the time they sit at the table. They usually have a feeling, and then it just starts coming. And in the process of it coming, it becomes clearer and clearer and clearer. And then in the end, you're like, okay, that was genius, which was coming through, which I just wouldn't be able to comprehend if I was trying to think it up. It has to, come out like that child who is ready, when the woman is pregnant. But with that said, I think if you want to write a book, I would start with a question: why? What's your purpose for that? Because as I said, there are millions of books being published every year. If I'm not mistaken, the number is actually pretty scary. It's like 13 million. It's really a huge number, and we have to be honest about that. A lot of the information that comes out in the 21st century is just that noise, unfortunately. So what's your purpose? If your purpose is to do that for the sake of your business, or because it's part of the business model, then there are people who will help you, and you will do just fine, and you will give value, and it will be good. But if your purpose is ultimate self-expression, and I believe the books which stay with us through times are usually the books which are exactly that, it's a message which you can't hold back, even if you really try hard, because they have to come out. I think these are the things that stay with us through generations.
Sweet. That's right. Just like that good old Think and Grow Rich, Waking the Giant Within. That's right indeed. 21 Qualities of a Leader, and soon to be Flawesome. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. We're going to add that to the list. Becoming Flawesome, baby. That's right indeed. So since you've been on a wonderful tour talking about this book, and folks need to grab it and listen to it and put it in their brain and really grow like a wonderful giant tree, giving positive shade to folks in the summer, is there a question that you wish you'd be asked more often when you're on these podcasts?
Oh God, this is a good question. Maybe I wish I was asked this question more often, because I never thought about it this way. Yeah, maybe sometimes I wish to talk about not work, and that doesn't happen very often, because we have so many other qualities to ourselves. And yes, I know I'm out in the world to spread my message, but sometimes you just feel like you want to talk about other things in life. So sometimes that's a question, but the one which you just asked was definitely a good one.
Well, there we go. I probably need to do some more digging, find out your hobbies, then we'll have you back on for hobbies.
I have a lot of things in my life, yes.
Oh, here's another question for you. So, if your fabulous book, Becoming Flawsome, if it were a food, what would it be and why?
It would be very dark chocolate. Why? Because I love chocolate. Dark because it is not a comfort food. It has the traces of sweetness, definitely a very good aftertaste, but it may make you uncomfortable in the process.
That's what I'm talking about, indeed. But hey, it's good for you. At least that's what the reports say, right? That's all I got for you. It's chocolate. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. So, heard that right, folks. It's chocolate. It's a great
Dark
Valentine's Day
chocolate,
gift. Oh, dark
really
chocolate. There
dark
we go.
chocolate. Yes.
Oh, there we go. Well, that's right. Extra dark. That's right,
Yes.
indeed. Almost charcoal like. Let me stop.
Have you ever tried almost 100% chocolate, like 99?
I don't think I have.
It's intense.
Oh, I can imagine, especially when it's all pure and everything and hasn't went through all the factories and all that not so smooth jazz.
That's another reason why I compare it to dark chocolate. I hope it's all pure. I know my book has been a delicate balance between my quirky self and what society expects, or let's say convention expects. But I do hope it's been real, raw.
There we go. They're real and raw. There you go, making the vegans happy. That's right, indeed. So we're coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive. And that is if you don't wake up tomorrow and you're at 25 again, but you're still in 2023. What advice would you give to yourself?
Oh, advice, God, I wouldn't give any, but I would enjoy my day. I would do things I don't do anymore. I could party and stay out late and do all the silly stuff I don't want to do anymore just because I'm smarter than that and I don't want to jeopardize my health and other things. And I definitely wear a very short skirt and something like that. And I think I'd keep advice to myself because you see, the thing is that the lessons or getting your lesson, there is a beauty in that. You see, if you know the answer in advance, you wouldn't get the experience that brought you to your lesson. So no, I don't think I would deprive myself of the experience that I was about to have. I might have been tempted to say that avoid this and don't talk to that person and things like that, but then I wouldn't have learned my lessons.
Yep. Yep, indeed. That's right, indeed. Don't deprive yourself. That's right, indeed. It's just a couple brick walls. You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Course.
You'll still walk afterwards. It'll be fine.
I mean, I'm here. I'm fine. But isn't
That's
that a very interesting philosophical question? If you had that knowledge about the biggest, you asked me about one of the biggest failings, right? And what I learned from that. So if you had that knowledge before you got that experience, uh, you probably wouldn't be what you are right now. And who knows what kind of version of you would you be?
exactly. Yeah, exactly. The book would probably be just regular chocolate or white chocolate. It wouldn't be dark chocolate.
Very milky with a lot of sugar and added flavorings.
That's right. More fluff than a marshmallow, indeed. So, my goodness, I know what doesn't have fluff is your book about being Flawesome, indeed. So, for those who need to cop that book and keep up with your journey in all things, Kristina, what's the best way for folks to do so?
Well, I believe the best way would be to buy it on my site, kristinamand.com/book. And Kristina Mand is written in an Estonian way. It's with a K, M-A-N-D. Of course, I mean, I want you to come to my place so I get to introduce you to all the things that I have. And also it comes with a bonus when you buy it from my page. But I believe it's going to be on the on the shelves of the bookstores. And that is really exciting.
Oh, yeah, that's right, indeed. Name of the game, have the Grand Canyon deep amount of books out printed and folks buying all of the copies. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed.
Oh, yes, please do.
That's right, indeed. So you're that right, folks. Cop some copies. And if I'm not mistaken, this is going to be an audio and you're reading it, right?
It is a book, the book which stands on the shelf because I personally I love books. I love reading books, and I have to have my books in my hands. So I had to go that way because it is my self-expression. But I do really hope that. Well, I don't know how you're going to. When I do hope that it is going to be audiobook as well. I know we are talking backwards right now, because because I actually don't know for a fact, but I think there will be an audiobook as well. There's definitely a digital version, like every book nowadays. It comes in a real life tangible book and a digital version. But yeah, I do want to read it out. God, I can't wait for it.
Okay, good. Looking forward to it. We need to get your voice in people's brains a lot more often, a lot longer too. That's right, indeed.
Thank you.
So, any parting words before we close up shop, Kristina?
Oh God, I wanted to say something smart, but instead I felt like saying, guys, eat dark chocolate. It's good for you. It doesn't come from a nutritionist though. But I believe that chocolate from my hands is slimming. So yeah, I think dark chocolate is good.
If you're hearing this part of the episode, that means you're one cool individual. Thanks a bunch for tuning in, and if you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to share it with at least one other person in your network. Bonus points for 3. And be sure to check out the backlog too while you're at it, because there are hundreds of wonderful episodes to choose from as well.